It's really good to speak to Dave Holloway today. Dave is the creator of Wonder Leads, a new concept in lead generation for businesses, specifically really using LinkedIn, where you're actually sending a video message to prospective clients. It's not quite as simple as you think. You have to follow a process. We don't have to, but it's actually far more effective if you do follow Dave's process of the Wonder Leads. Dave, welcome to Business Questions, and please just explain to me about Wonder Leads and how it works.
Hello, David, and thank you very much for having me on. So Wonder Leads is a lead generation framework for small business owners like me. They're ones who have historically struggled with outbound sales. So that's typically people who have transitioned into business ownership. So they were previously a technician in a role, and then they were good at something, and then they suddenly find themselves at the helm of a whole business ship with multiple different hats that you have to wear. And the thing that always was my Achilles heel for 14 years running a business was business development. And it wasn't like having sales conversations. Like, I was always fairly comfortable when I got to the one-to-one conversation. It was generating those opportunities to have those conversations in the first place that drove me nuts, and we tried everything in the time that I was running a business, from cold calling, direct mail, email marketing, networking, social media, advertising, PR. Like, literally, you name it, we gave it a shot, and pretty much everything ended up costing me a lot in sort of time and money and integrity, with very little reward to show for it. And it was kind of in the hunt to find a solution for this that, sometimes you have to proactively go out there and get work. You can't just wait for it to come to you. That we came across the techniques that are now sort of outlined and refined in my book, which are proved to be sort of nearly 20 times more effective than cold calling at generating warm leads from previously uncontacted prospects. But the most important part is that you don't have to feel bad doing it. It allows you to keep your integrity intact. So it's the drive for the writing the book was to help other businesses, other smallest businesses in particular, who find themselves in similar situations, who need to try and find an effective method of reaching out to people.
Yeah, absolutely. So the premise is that you have a system. So I'm trying to think of a good way to actually describe this. Almost like it's a development funnel, almost in how you create your message. Because you can do a quick little message, but it's probably not going to be as effective. But through your research and your experience, you've actually got the way you approach it finely tuned, which you explain in your book, and it actually has sort of various guidelines of the steps to take and what should be included in each step. Perhaps you can just give a brief overview of those.
Yeah, so I think it's the whole book is about relationship building. So it's not about approaching a sales conversation with an expectation of an immediate sale. Like, the reality is that, particularly for service-based businesses, who, business development is probably more of a challenge. Purchasing windows can be months, if not years apart, so really the ultimate objective for any business development effort should be to present yourself in the best possible light, and then putting yourself firmly on the radar, so that when those purchasing decisions do come along, that you're then front of mind with that person, and hopefully you can then take a conversation forward at the right time. Now, the side effect having that approach, sort of a non-selling way where you're not pushing for meeting it, is that it generally builds a more trustworthy relationship, which then it naturally leads people to want to do more work with you. So the process that we put in place for Wonder Leads is really a roadmap for the buying journey. So it's not about your selling process. It's really kind of having a lot of empathy with what the buyer is going through and how they think and what they might be interested in, so that you're putting yourself on the radar. You're not overstepping the mark by bombarding them with follow-ups which nobody likes. You are sort of following it up with short pieces of communication that don't take any more time than you need to, and then you're sort of reinforcing the expertise that you have with insight and valuable pieces of communication that you can then present to someone so that when eventually you do get to that point of having that sales conversation, there's an expectation that they're dealing with someone who is a certain value, and is a person of value. And that's really what business development should be about. You don't, it's getting across the value that you bring as a person. And the whole technique is designed to try and maximize that, really for people.
Well, absolutely. I mean, people do buy from people, which is very well documented. And I think also you say it's not, you're almost like making an introduction to yourself. And if you'd like to speak further about it, then let's arrange a time to do that. And obviously LinkedIn is an ideal platform for the videos. But you can't send a video in a direct message on LinkedIn. So how do people actually view the films that you've made?
Well, you can, as it happens, you can actually send, direct videos via LinkedIn that you can they have different functionality now within the app. So you can do audio messages and video messages. Now, the problem is that it doesn't allow you some of the finer details of personalization that you're trying to show effort. What you're trying to show is a visible demonstration of going above and beyond like the average everyday approaches that most customers, most people get through social media and through email and things like that. And so whilst there's the opportunity to record those and send them direct through LinkedIn, which is better than just sending a message, for example, we've actually sort of developed some software which helps to create a really hyper personalized experience, everything down to sort of the domain name that's used, down to like the details of call to actions that you can add within the video, and driving people to action. So it's all kind of in a sort of a neat package, if you like, but it's really designed so that you can measure activity, and so it allows you to kind of record when videos have been viewed, so that you know that the work that you've been putting in has been effective. And one of the things that's critical to any small business is efficiency. Efficiency, I always talk about like the 3 E's for business development. So that's efficiency, effectiveness, and empathy. And whatever you do in your business development efforts should visibly demonstrate a high proportion of all of those characteristics. And so effective, like knowing that you're not wasting your time, is absolutely critical. So the software allows you to measure when people have seen your videos and get notifications, and it sort of streamlines the process so that right, if I send out 10 videos, I'm going to, on average, I will get 50% of those will generate a response. and then 10% of them will generate a sales opportunity. And that's the reality. It's dealing a little bit in a numbers game, but it allows you then to plan a schedule accordingly, so how many you need to create.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it's quite fascinating because I tried to send or attach a short video to a LinkedIn message and I couldn't do it. So perhaps it's my account just doesn't let me.
Yeah.
So I had to, upload to YouTube. Then it's whole YouTube link in the message, which doesn't look particularly good. So your software actually sounds, absolutely wonderful, and I have seen it, and it is a very personal message. And I think if I was a recipient, I would be, it's got, this person actually makes some real effort here. And
Yeah.
I'm completely on your page and how effective this is, because we've all done email marketing in the past before GDPR, and it's such a low response rate and it's just scattergun. But I think this is so personal in what you're doing, because you do need to invest time in and learn a little bit about the prospect, the contact you're trying to speak to. And then you put that into the message. They're going to take note, aren't they? Which is why you're getting such high response rates. So I think, for the time and the effort that it takes, completely worthwhile, especially with your system, where once you're in your software, you have a workflow you go through. You have a number of scripts which you can store within that software, depending on what you're trying to sell, if you've got different departments in your business. And then you obviously personalize all the introductions as well. So absolutely hugely effective. Can you give any sort of real life examples, any feedback you've had from your clients?
Yeah, well, that's the best thing, really, is knowing that you're able to help some people out there in their business development efforts. The other side of my business world, if you like, is branding services for manufacturers, and quite a number of those contacts have started using these techniques within the business, and they started to really see results from like their own endeavors. And me personally, well, this is how the evolved, was from my own experience using it. And it was pretty clear that when I started making these introductions, and this was before we developed any software, I was kind of using it, a cobbled together combination of sort of Excel spreadsheets and Google Analytics and Vimeo and sort of all sorts of things to kind of help pull it all together. But it was the responses that I was getting from people who were receiving the the approach that made me realize how effective it was, because it wasn't like, there's almost no other type of business development approach that I've come across anyway, where you will get sort of a response from people saying, wow, that's great, or thanks but no thanks. How many cold emails, a response going, oh no, thank you for sending this through, this is lovely, but I'm not interested right now. You just spam, it goes in a spam filter and it's forgotten about forever. Whereas I was getting approaches back saying, this is the best approach through LinkedIn ever, from people I'd never excuse me, from people I'd never previously had any conversations with, so. And that's all it was trying to do. It was just trying to find a way to kickstart those conversations on the best possible foot, in the most positive manner. And so it was those responses from the people who I was sending it to that were really the validation of the whole approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one element that you do offer as well, which I think is fantastic for people in the UK who are notoriously shy for being on camera. Americans, Australians, that we do this, that completely be on camera every opportunity, because as we say, you're buying businesses, people buy from people. So we're the face, people want to see what we're like. But we are very nervous as a nation in the UK. So you do actually offer a mentoring service as well, which guides you obviously through the process. Do you also help people on how to present on camera as well?
Yeah, so I mean, the book outlines some like techniques for overcoming, sort of camera shyness and things like that, and how to present yourself in the best possible manner. Now, the key thing is really, not to look at it as like an enemy that you've like a huge hurdle you've got to overcome. It's just about trying to present the best possible version of you. Like now, it's not about acting or playing a role, or it's just about trying to follow the basics of presentation, like good communication, and also trying to like tap into little bits of positive human psychology. Like when you smile, for example, it's very difficult, is sort of for another person not to respond with a smile. So and then the chemical reactions in your brain that creates actually is sort of it's like gets your endorphins running. So it's these sort of approaching it with a really positive attitude to try and get the best possible response is really important. So those sorts of things are certainly walked through within the book. And the mentoring that you mentioned, David, is sort of it's to help businesses who might need some who are happy either following the instructions in the book and maybe just need some third-party validation to go, your video is looking great, like, or we could just stop doing this nervous mannerism that you might have, or just cast a bit more of an expert eye over. And also for bigger businesses who are looking to fast track the implementation, maybe within a team. So that's kind of when it help be a bit more hands-on in terms of helping their script writing and drawing up lists of contacts and things like that. So yeah.
And I think also for people who are perhaps a little bit unsure, you do offer a free trial with 10 free films. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's the Social Laser software. So it's a 10 free credits. So you get to go on there. The sort of, if you're following the process, 10 credits would hopefully, if you're getting the same sort of results that I did, where my lead generation rate was around 10.8%. So 10 credits should be enough to kind of try and generate one sales opportunity for a business if they're following this method. So it's hopefully enough to kind of prove some value for people to help get them started. And there's some like free resources that you can also download, to help structure some of the messages and work through.
And I think it's also, perhaps important to note that, ideally each film should perhaps only be, 90 seconds. So it's not a huge thing. You're not in front of the camera for 20 minutes giving a big dialogue about your product. It literally is, hi, I'm David from Business Questions. I noticed that you were struggling to raise capital. I've got a wonderful video that you might like to watch on my channel. Well, that's probably going too much selling then, even maybe.
Yeah.
But you get the general gift. It's a hello, how are you?
It's brevity is like so important. Like everybody's busy. That if you go in there with sort of a 5 minutes sort of company presentation, you're going to lose people straight away. The whole reason why it works is that it's kind of framed around an introduction. So most people, when they make a new social media connection, that's it. And that's the end of the dialogue. I think I read something where it was 84% of like new social media connections, that's it. There's no further communication once that initial connection is made. So this is about, once you've made a connection with someone that that you that you want to work with, you then can follow it up with a really you're just taking the next step of a natural conversation. It's just that you're doing it in a virtual manner. So you are like you're introducing yourself a bit more, hopefully commenting a bit on what the other person interests are that you might have then gleaned from their profile now that you're connected. And then it's sort of like a brief introduction that says how you might be able to help and at what points you might be able to help, but never overstepping like, let's go for a meeting now, here's my link, let's go for a meeting, because that actively pushes people away, that sort of feel like you're being railroaded into anything. And I know, because I hate it myself, a business owner, I get so many of those approaches and they just push me away. So what we're trying to do is just take it back to the basics of informing, educating, but not overstepping into sales, which is the fastest way to derail any kind of professional conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've absolutely loved reading the book. I've actually signed up for the your software. I'm gonna put all details below in the description and also on the screen right now below us, so you can find Dave's website, Wonder Leads website. And I'm going to be implementing this strategy and see how I go and reporting back, because we now do a weekly roundup of what I've done in the business to progress the business. And from what I've learned from speaking to people like Dave, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I've got every confidence in it because I think it's an absolutely fantastic way to go, way forward, and it's so much better than just a plain message. And I'm quite happy to invest the time because it's investing in my business and ultimately my future and my success. Dave, thank you very much indeed for your time.
David, thank you ever so much for listening to me.